Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. This is a discussion I am so lucky to be a part of every month. We get the one and only Brian Lebo from the Lebo Group. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on? Thank you for having me. Welcome from fabulous Las Vegas over here.
Dude, thank you for giving me your time every month. As you know, Las Vegas for me is not a market I've currently invested in, but it is a market I've watched for well over a decade because for me, it's a canary in the coal mine. It moves first and it moves fast. And dude, your video about July, oh my God, a 40% crash in a freaking month. Are you kidding me? What the hell is going on?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have been discussing this for months upon months and speculated previously to that. So, I mean, this has been leading up. It's like this is, I don't want to say vindication because that implies that we've been wanting this to happen, but this is what we've been warning you about for so very long. And, last month when we did this, I said this is just the opening salvo. The numbers were negative, but they weren't really that bad. And they certainly weren't indicative of what people like myself out here were actually seeing on the ground level and what you and I had been speculating about for quite some time. So now it's like the chickens are coming home to roost, but still, we're still only in like the first, second inning. But what I put out are the July numbers, and still our local newspaper, the Review Journal, the local news. I don't think the Realtor Board of Association has even released the numbers that I released. So
No,
it's still
no, we're probably a week from the state releasing numbers,
right.
and we're 2 weeks away from NAR having their July numbers. So yeah, you
Yeah.
were early, but yeah. And again, folks, just in case you've been watching my channel for a long time, we're talking 40% crash in transactions.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we saw this in June. It was a precursor,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's no refuting what the numbers that we're going to cover today are. That's why I rushed to put them out on Tuesday for you guys, because again, you're getting a sneak peek before the general public knows how the public and consumers respond to this information. That is going to be the most telling part because we all know that the market's not great, but these are irrefutable numbers.
Yeah.
So
So again, if people were to go back and watch the very first interview we did together, you've dropped something on me. I ask you every time. The thing you dropped on me last time was the first thing to get cut by builders is lot premiums.
yeah.
We just had a 40% price cut. We have all seen, you've shared links with me where builders are discounting finished product because somebody canceled. Have lot premiums started taking hits yet?
Yeah, they've already taken pretty massive hits. Again, different developers and different projects are going to relate differently. So what you're starting to see is a little bit of a fragmentation in the market where even the same builder may have different incentives based on the different property that they're developing. So for the ones that are almost done, it's a different situation than ones that are just beginning. But you're already seeing lot premiums drastically reduced. You're already seeing incentives go through the roof. Virtually every builder right now is willing to buy down your rate. Some of them are basically throwing $50,000 at you. So it's a question. Do you want to buy down the rate and get money at the design center and have a yard landscaped? So these are all things that, again, we discussed a year ago, and it's just a cyclical cycle of real estate. And now that's where we're at.
Yeah.
What's more telling is that normally the first incentives are for going to be spec homes that have already been built,
Mhm.
that people backed out of, that they couldn't sell. Now we're already seeing homes that aren't even coming online until October, and they're already
Wow.
taking I think one builder, we may have discussed it, but they're taking 8% off the finished price, and the home's not even built until October. So it shows you how bearish even the home builders are, that they're discounting properties that haven't even come to fruition yet. So
Yeah.
big difference.
Yeah, and again, this is why I watch Vegas. Again, I don't have any money there yet invested, but it's because it moves and moves so fast. It moves up fast and it moves down fast.
Yeah.
And builders lot premiums. The other thing I love that you've done is you have this. You basically bifurcate the market, right? Below 250. I have a screenshot, so let me just read it. Right, you have
Yeah.
below 250, 250 to 500, 5 to 750, 750 to a million to a million five, and then in 1.5 and above.
Yeah.
If I were to summarize our last call, which was in July about June, really where I think we ended up was, Mike, right now it seems the most pain is 750 to a million.
Right.
That was kind of the summary of last month. Is that fair?
Yeah. 750 to 1.5 was
Okay.
where the pain was felt. And I mean, I think to some degrees, it makes sense where your wealthier, more sophisticated buyers are going to be the ones to pull back first. Obviously, crypto, Wall Street, all of that had massive effects on more wealthier demographics than on your lower end. Lower end is more related to cash flow, income, and how much savings they have for a down payment. So it's pretty natural to see the high end decline a little bit quicker than you're going to find on the medium to low end.
Yeah, and what I saw in this month's numbers, again, folks, if you're not following Brian Lebo from the Lebo Group, you're missing out. What I saw in this month's numbers is really frightening. So you still have the slowdown in the higher end, but where there were huge jumps, not necessarily in inventory. For example, 500, 750, both months were 2,700 in active listings. But oh my God, in contract went from 717 to 244. We're going to have a growing inventory, and then the 250 to 500. That's where the inventory built. Month on month. That was where the building was. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we can discuss inventory levels later, but obviously, I mean, our inventory has gone through the roof since May. We've tripled our inventory. So I mean, that's really all you need to know right there. And not only have we tripled the inventory, but as we just covered, sales are down 40%. So when you start calculating, months of supply, that changes on both sides.
Exactly.
So, we've gone from, a 6-week supply to now we're, a 5-month supply. It's a big difference, man. Big difference.
The other thing that you did some back of the napkin calculations on this time that you're going to do later is try to figure out cancellations.
Right.
Dude, yeah. That is telling. That is telling.
Yeah, I thought it was, we'll see how accurate it is, but this metric that I use, when I pull at the beginning of the month, I'm pulling how many homes in this price range are actually on the market, whether they're in contract or not, versus how many are in contract. So that gives you that ratio. So we understand how much is saturated for that price range. Then, of course, on the right margin, you see the totals for every price range. Well, when I looked back at last month and I saw how many homes were actually in contract versus how many homes actually closed within the month of July, it was about 75%, I believe. So it kind of gives us a little bit of an insight to, okay, if we only have 2,300 homes right now in contract, obviously some will close in August, some will close in September, some will never close, who knows? But if this stays congruent with what last month was, this is going to be the worst month of closings arguably ever, certainly for this decade, with the exception of May 2020, which was quarantine.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about August in the second video. I want to go back to July. One of the big things on July, you sent me this screenshot. July 22nd, you had let's call it 8,400. Let's round up. 8,400 homes, about 2,500 in contract.
Right.
The 22nd, you had, let's call it 8,900 homes on the market. So about 500 more.
No. I sent you the revised one. It's still bad. It's still bad, but it went from 83, 87. I'm looking at it to 9,712.
Oh, 97.
Yeah, on the market. And then we had 2,500 in contract this time last month, whereas now we only have 2,100 and change. So we went from 30% saturation down to 22%. But again, if you figure that we had 2,500 homes in escrow at that time, but yet we only managed to sell 1,892 homes, that leads you to understand that if we only have 2,100 and change on the market, that's how you get to only closing 1,600 homes this month.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is going to be really interesting, because I know this is happening in Vegas. It's frankly happening in all markets, but I have just sneaky feeling it could be dominant in Vegas. And that is what I call wish pricing.
Yeah.
You have a home, you think it's worth 750, you listed it 775, you wait 30 days, crickets, you just take it off the market. We're going to have a lot of expireds and cancellations in Vegas, I think. It's not going to be zero, but it might be 20%. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's actually in this month's video that I put out on Tuesday. I actually said that this is a metric that I'm going to start following. So I'm going to have my assistant pull all the withdrawn listings by month. That because obviously things are changing, but we need to disseminate between what's considered normal activity, what was hyper normal during this boom period, and then where we're going into right now. Because just pulling preliminary numbers, there was definitely a spike in withdrawn listings.
Yes.
But I want to see on a
Mhm.
line graph. I want you guys to see just how much effect it has, because again, inventory is going through the roof, but especially these last 2-3 weeks, every day I'm seeing reduction, 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 and then withdrawn, withdrawn, withdrawn.
Exactly.
So
The-
even though even though our inventory is rising, if that high percentage of properties being
yeah.
withdrawn didn't exist, it would be even higher than that.
Well, actually, I think it's twofold. I think right now, and I've told people we're in a very noisy market, right? I think there's a lot of fear of missing out coming from sellers today, which is, hey, the market's peak
Yeah.
crash. I remember last time, get out now, get out now, get out now. 30 days from now, they're gonna be like, nope, I'm staying put, can't move, nobody wants it, blah, blah, blah. So again, right, let's just assume you had 10,000 listings. If 25% of those are what I'll call fake, meaning they have no chance of selling because they're wish pricing,
Right.
you really don't have 10,000, you have
Right.
7,500. So I think especially Vegas, I think there's going to be like 6 to 8 weeks of true noise.
Yeah.
I think by August 1st, we're going to figure out how bad the market is, because I think it's just noisy on both sides. You got a bunch of buyers freaked out, you got a bunch of sellers that are crazy. It's just this cancellation or withdrawal that you're going to pull is going to be very valuable, because it'll be the worst I've ever seen, I'm guessing.
Yeah, right now it's like the news is traveling a little bit slow, among sellers. I mean, you still have sellers that are putting homes on the market that still are overly optimistic. So it's a vast indication that they don't quite grasp what we're
Mhm.
getting into. So my conversations with every seller is, we're going to have a come to Jesus moment right here, right now, and you need to understand what you're getting into, because it's a waste of everyone's time to proceed forward unless you really understand and really know what you're getting into. And right now, for the most part, the properties that are selling basically fall into two categories. Either you're the top 1 to maybe 5% of properties, meaning, I mean, your house
You're
is
just
so upgraded,
dialed in.
it's in
Yeah.
perfect condition. I mean, it's a dream home. Those are still selling and they're still doing fairly well,
Mhm.
but that's 5% maybe of all listings. Then it's a question of value, and that's what I've tried to explain to people for the past 4 years, is that when you're in a boom period, no one really considers the inherent value of properties. The value is simply what people are willing to pay, and that becomes completely blown out of, there's no semblance of logic at times. So now we're coming into a place where, why is this neighborhood so expensive when the same homes are built across the street and they're not? So now we're starting to get a little bit of a settling in the market,
Mhm.
and rationality is coming back. But at the same time, what's happening is, if your house is homogenous, meaning it's no different than this house or this house, which a lot of Las Vegas, they're just track homes. So your home's the same floor plan as my neighbors, and it's very similar. In that scenario, it really just boils down to pricing. So a lot of the properties that I've sold, a lot of the properties that I've watched, it really comes down to the value. What are you willing to sell it for?
Mhm.
And that's the only way to really get them to move, is you either have the condition or it's the pricing. There's one right now. We're gonna do a video, so
Yeah.
stay tuned, guys, because I'm doing something special just for this channel to thank you guys. But there's a property right now that I've been following because I knew it was going to go there. This is your opportunity as investors to really, there's a huge difference between someone who wants to sell their home and someone who needs to sell their home. I mean, completely different animals there. For the
Correct.
person who needs to sell their home, they're in a very difficult spot. So there's one home right now in a master plan community, pool, spa, 2,500 square feet. Either way, this home would have sold for $600,000 all day long 6 months ago, no problem. Well, they ended up having to come all the way down to 500,000. They had a house flipper that was willing to buy it for 475. They got cold feet and backed out. And I'm trying to pick this one up for investor for 450. Now, it pencils out all day long at 450. Over the last few years, it's been very difficult to make those cap rates make any sense. But while I still don't think right now is normally like the time to buy, there are a few gems out there that, like this house, for instance, had green bamboo floors and pink walls. Nothing nothing fundamentally disturbing about the property,
Yeah.
all aesthetic problems.
Yeah.
But in this market, why would I buy this house with green floors and pink walls when the house next door is about the same price and it's normal? So that's what you should be looking out for, is those ugly ducklings that are purely aesthetic, easily remediated, and you have a motivated seller.
There you go. Yeah. So lastly, let's talk about price. Because again, people have been hearing me talk about transaction crash, but everybody's putting out crash videos on price. What did the median come in? Because you take a stab at it. What did it come in month on month? But then also, let's not forget year on year, which is what I track, which I think will surprise some people.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a perfect example of manipulating data. Okay. Sometimes you can have two data sets, two perspectives that are both honest and both legitimate, but completely deceptive. So what I mean by that is this specifically. Right now, in the month of July, the median price dropped $15,000 in Las Vegas.
About 3%, roughly.
Yeah, but $15,000, that's a massive month. I have to go back.
That's pretty bad for a month. Yeah.
I don't know if we had a month where we went up 15,000. We had plenty of months we went up, 5, 10,000, but to drop $15,000 in 1 month, that's huge. Combine that with,
let's actually talk about, because that's one of the things that I saw in the July numbers that I didn't see in June. Remember when June, we just talked about it, all the problems seem to skew higher, and that's the median price issue, right? If all the inventory is skewing higher, which again, the higher end new homes, that explains part of the problem. What you just showed us is now you are stacking inventory almost like Phoenix between 250 and 500. That's going to pull the median lower. So that was the big change from July to June, is your inventory mix just changed.
Yeah, the inventory mix changed, but like we just, covered, I mean, we went from, having to pay $5, $10, $20,000 over list price, at least paying list price, to now no one really wants.
Nobody's paying list.
The only way you're paying list is, like I said, the only people that are getting list price is if your home legitimately is in the top 5% of all properties, and it pretty much has to move in a week or two. If it doesn't move in a week or two, no one's going to give you list price or above. And then it falls into everything else out there. And again, everything else out there, if it's been sitting stagnant, no one's going to give you list price. So it's going to be less. So that's why you're seeing the median price come down, and it's likely to continue to come down. Maybe not at 15,000 per month, but I don't see how it's not going to. I mean, this month I'm seeing the same activity as we did last month. So $15,000 in July combined with $5,000 in June. So we're down 20 G's in 2 months. So if you were to look at the other way, I could say that right now, year over year, we're up 14.8%. So again, you guys got to be, I mean, if you're watching this channel, obviously you're pretty cerebral. Otherwise, this is incredibly boring to you.
You're like, what's going on?
Yeah. So you guys are already way ahead of the general public. But again, when you hear bullshit metrics like, well, Las Vegas housing is up 14.8% year over year, Phoenix is up, Idaho's up. It's not a lie, but it's highly, highly deceptive. That's a version of the truth. The real truth that you want to be looking at is, where is your inventory at? Where is your median pricing? Where is it trending? Not who cares about last year. I don't even care about March. That might as well be 5 years ago. We were in a different world. So let's watch the trend, guys.
Yeah, it's definitely a trend. And again, Vegas is what I watch because it moves first. It moves violently, both up and down.
Yeah. And, I mean, having been through this cycle a few times, this is what we've discussed before. A lot of this has to do with perception. Perception is reality. So when the market's going up, there's FOMO, people are aggressive. The second prices plateau, God forbid they dip, the second prices dip, it's like, oh, prices are going down, and then no one really wants to buy. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's why a lot of times when there are these market changes, it's, you got to be careful how vested you are, because it's a little bit harder to get out than you think.
Yeah. The big thing for me in Vegas, we have to watch to see if it continues in August, is the inventory mix, because in June, Vegas and Phoenix were different, right? I have some John Lake, I think his name is, in Phoenix. He does kind of the same thing as you, has been tracking stuff for decades. And what he's saying is specifically Open Door, right? Open Door's got like 10% of the market, and it's all below the median. So Phoenix market, you're going down, right? The median's just going to be dragged down. Vegas had a chance to go up last month, right? Because of all the inventory coming on is 750 and above. You could have $100,000 price cut on $1 million home, and the median
Right.
still goes up.
Right.
That's how the inventory mix. That's
Yeah.
why I was so fascinated by most of the inventory growth
Right.
percentage wise was 250 to 500.
Right. And I think a lot of what's going on is just a culmination of so many factors, whether they're global or, macro to a domestic level, especially for Las Vegas, you have this convergence of interest rates going through the roof. And really, you got to look at it. We've touched on this subject, but we've had a bizarre migration pattern where
Yes, you have.
so many
Bags
people,
full of money.
well, one, we've always had people move from California, but obviously due to the pandemic, we've never had such an influx at one, hyper centralized time, so many people moving at the same time. And then we've never had so many people with this level of wealth moving to Las Vegas. So nothing lasts forever. And unfortunately, the migration travel period has come to an end. Interest rates are getting people crushed. Obviously, crypto, Wall Street. So you have this culmination of all these factors. I mean, it's very understandable and explainable. The question is just how long is this going to last? How deep is it going to be? And will we see any government manipulation or incentives to try to soften these blows and bring housing back? When's that going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to happen. I think your last statement is correct. When do they roll it out? I'm guessing early next year. So, folks, if you're not following Brian Lebo, first off, if you're interested in real estate investing in any state or any country, I believe, like I do, you have to follow Las Vegas. And if you are following Las Vegas, you must follow the Lebo Group. You must go to his channel right now and subscribe. He puts out amazing stuff that I watch all the time. Brian, where can they find it? And if they want to buy something, how do you want them to reach out?
Yeah. So the channel, just go to YouTube, the Lebo Group, very straightforward. If you just Google me, Brian Lebo, I'm sure everything will come up. If you want to contact me, the best thing to do is just text me or shoot me an email. My text is very simple, 702-257-LEBO, 257-LEBO. Shoot me a text. I'll get right back to you.
Awesome, buddy. Thanks again.
All right.